Good evening and many thanks for joining us. You're watching QTV Nightly News coming to you from our studios on Caraba Avenue with me, Ansmana Isonyase. First, here are the main news headlines. President Adama Barrow has inaugurated a health center at Chisai Majau named after Jim Fatma Job, a retired chief of Jokadu for his 40-year service to the nation. A lifeless body was discovered early this morning, Friday 24th May, on the Welingara Highway. President Barrow, as chair of the OIC, has approved the Gambia's filing of a reply brief to the International Court of Justice in The Hague in its case against Myanmar for its alleged genocide against the Rohingya. And the World Bank Country Office in the Gambia held its annual dissemination forum on Friday on the state of the Gambia's economy. In international news, the International Court of Justice rules that Israel must halt its military offensive in Rafah in southern Gaza. Well, stay tuned for more on these and other stories. And now here's the news in focus. President Adama Barrow has inaugurated a health center at Chisai Majau named after a retired chief of Jokadu in honor of his service to the country. Equipped with modern facilities, the health center is set to expand and improve access to quality health care services for at least 15 villages in Jokadu district. Mohamed Lamincho reports.
Nestled in a remote location at Jokadu district of the North Bank region, Chisai Majau is now a center for medical attention for 15 villages, covering a catchment area of more than 16,000 people. Residents of this part of the country have got something to celebrate, and joining them to preside over this special occasion is President Adama Barrow. This ceremony marks the 5th health center President Adama Barrow has inaugurated within a week. For President Barrow, this development is symbolic of his government's commitment to transforming the Gambia's health sector for the good health and well-being of all.
In line with our commitment to bolstering the health sector, my government, through strategic investment and partnerships, continues to revitalize, expand and upgrade existing health facilities nationwide, particularly in underserved areas.
Equipped with cutting-edge medical equipment, facilities and health professionals, this health center offers a sigh of relief, comfort and quality medical care for the people of Jokadu.
The excellent features of these new health centers are the self-contained air-conditioned delivery rooms. These will allow women in labor to deliver in dignity and comfort. With improved roads for referrals and access to water and electricity in health centers, we anticipate a further reduction in maternal and infant mortality rates in the Gambia.
The health center is named after Jim Fatma Job, a retired chief of Jokadu, who is being honored for his 40-year clean record of service to his people since he was elected chief in 1985 and voluntarily retired in 2019. The retired chief is overwhelmed with gratitude for witnessing a moment when his service is given a fitting recognition by government.
Today,
there are hospitals that were inaugurated and named after people who have died long ago, and it is only their families who are alive. It was in my presence when some of them were cabinet ministers and we were in politics together. So if Allah keeps me alive and the president names a health center after me, I am happy and grateful. When I informed my family, our village residents all stood in solidarity and they took it as a tribute to all of them as a whole. Every Gambian and resident of the country is legally entitled to access to quality health care. However, many have long enjoyed the contrary. Now, on a journey of transformation of the health sector, government pledges to do more for sustainable development that is dependent on a healthy nation. Mohamed Lamin, QTV News.
And now on to some sad news. A lifeless body was discovered early this morning, Friday 24th May, on the Welingara Highway Our reporter Lena Igwenyiba visited the scene and spoke to residents about the shocking incident.
Willingara and other places should stop the killing. People are not chickens, they are human beings. Those words from Uleba echo the sentiments of other residents we spoke to regarding the apparent murder of a man believed to be from Sunchu Balia who sold perfumes. Although an attempt had been made to clean it up, there were still traces of blood where the body was said to have been found. Abdul Aziz Mbai, owner of a store near where the body was found, described the scene that greeted him upon arriving at work.
The police took the dead body. I didn't know what had happened earlier. I arrived and found them conducting their investigation. The body was already covered and lying in front of my shop. Since I started here, this is the first time I have seen something like this. I'm asking the government to help us more with security. The country is no longer safe. Even when you go out at night with something valuable, you are worried it might get snatched.
Babu Kanbai, who works near the area where the body was found, knew the presumed victim and also called on the government to take action.
I knew the boy they killed. Our houses are not far from each other. He was also from Sinchu Balia and sold perfumes, walking around to make sales. The killings have become too frequent. When I arrived, I found the dead body and was told he had been murdered. I don't know the details of how it happened, but we are here every day working. Regardless, the government needs to take action.
Although the Gambia has one of the lowest murder rates in Africa, it has seen a few murders in recent months, causing fear and anxiety. Although the police have arrested and charged suspects in almost all of these cases, each incident creates a fresh wave of anxiety among the public, prompting discussions on whether the country is becoming less safe. QTV contacted the Gambia Police Force, who told us the Willingara police station is currently investigating the alleged murder of an individual identified as Bakari Sedi from Kiti. Following a report by bystanders, in the early morning of Friday, May 24, 2024, the body of the deceased has been taken to the mortuary. Investigations are underway to determine the circumstances leading to his death. They urge the public to provide any information that may be helpful in the investigation. Reporting for QTV News, I am Lena Igwenyiba.
Well, our prayers and thoughts are with the victim's family during these difficult times. Now, President Barrow, as chair of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, has approved the Gambia's filing of a reply brief to the International Court of Justice in The Hague in its case against Myanmar for its alleged genocide against the Rohingya. For more, here is Jennifer Sonko.
On the 11th November 2019, the Gambia, on behalf of the 57 members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, filed a case at the International Court of Justice, alleging that Myanmar failed to fulfill its obligations to prevent and punish acts of genocide committed against the Rohingya in Rakhine State as required under the Genocide Convention. The Gambia's application alleges that Myanmar's military and other security forces perpetrated genocide by systematically destroying, through mass murder, rape, and other kinds of sexual violence, villages of the Rohingya in Rakhine province of Myanmar. Following Myanmar's denial, President Adama Barrow, chair of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, has approved for the Gambia to file a reply brief to the International Court of Justice in The Hague in response to Myanmar's denial. The Gambia's reply emphasizes to the court the substantial volume of reliable and credible evidence that confirms that Myanmar is responsible for the commission of acts of genocide against members of the Rohingya group in Myanmar. There are reports of violence and destruction in northern Rakhine State, which has reportedly resulted in the displacement of thousands of civilians, including many members of the Rohingya community. The Gambia expressed concern regarding the forced conscription of Rohingya civilians and efforts by the Myanmar military to stoke intercommunal tensions and violence between the Rohingya and the Rakhine people. The Rohingya are a Muslim minority in Myanmar, a minority Buddhist state in which 90% of the population consider themselves as Buddhists. The Gambia calls on all acts to protect civilians, to allow for unhindered access to humanitarian access, to abide by obligations under the international human rights and humanitarian law, and to hold accountable those who violate international law. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Basonko.
Now, the World Bank Country Office in the Gambia held its annual dissemination forum on Friday for stakeholders on the Gambia's economy, on the state rather of the Gambia's economy, which among other things focuses on jump-starting inclusive and sustained growth in the Gambia. Alusise has more.
The economic update assesses recent economic developments in the Gambia to inform the Gambian government and stakeholders about the state of the economy and promote dialogue on policy options to address development challenges facing the country, and to accelerate progress on eliminating extreme poverty and promoting shared prosperity. This 2024 edition focuses on jump-starting inclusive and sustained growth. According to the latest update, limited long-term growth combined with high demographic growth and recent high level of inflation have prevented strides in economic opportunity and poverty reduction. On a positive note, the country's economic activities increased in 2023 despite global challenges. Here is Faye Borofais, the World Bank resident representative, and CDM Keita, the Gambia's Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, sharing their respective thoughts on the report.
So this report puts a focus on jump-starting inclusive and sustained growth in the Gambia. Now, the Gambian economy was exposed to persistent challenges in the global economy, with the continued tightening of monetary policies and financing conditions, along with persistently high global high commodity prices, which fueled domestic inflation, unfortunately. However, despite these adverse developments, the Gambia's economic activity increased in 2023, which is allowing the country to continue on its recovery path post-COVID.
It is therefore imperative that we adopt prudent macro-fiscal policies to build the fiscal space and enhance our capacity to absorb the shocks. We are living in times of unprecedented crisis, and the only way is to insulate ourselves by building in the necessary stabilizers.
While Ami Chongan Jai, an economist with the Minister of Finance, applauded the Gambia's economic growth recovery strides despite the challenges, Evrem Nyongabo, a World Bank economist, recognized sustained growth as a key pillar to achieve the country's development aspirations, which requires the government to prioritize more investments in productive sectors.
The banking system remains sound, but highly exposed to government, while private sector credit conditions remain tight.
If we consider the period from early 2000 up to 2022, productivity in the Gambia has been negative. But if we consider from 2017 up to 2019, productivity entered into a positive territory.
The report indicated that, among other things, the country's real GDP is projected to grow by 5.6% in 2024 to 2026, driven by increased activity across the economy. Agriculture is expected to continue to grow, assuming favorable rainfall alongside an efficient use of fertilizers, continued seed improvements, and support from development partners. The event culminated in a panel discussion on how to strengthen the Gambia's macroeconomic stabilization in the short to medium term, given its macroeconomic vulnerability. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliu Sise.
And the report there by Aliu Sise will lead us to the commercial break, but we will be right back.
The art of juggling is a true spectacle of agility, coordination, and speed. A symbol of progression, precision, and mastery. "5G speed is like having the juggler in your pocket.
This looks amazing.
with lightning-fast download and upload speeds. You'll easily be able to juggle even the busiest workdays. Whether you're a busy entrepreneur, a creative, or just someone who wants to stay connected. Juggle your tasks with ease with QCell 5G speed. The future is here. It's fast, reliable, and efficient. First brought to you by QCell. We innovate, others follow.
Looking for the perfect place to promote your product or place your advert? Look no further than QTV. We are the premier destination for businesses looking to connect with Gambian audiences and beyond. At QTV, we offer a variety of advertising solutions to suit your needs and budget. With our diverse range of programming, you can be sure that your ad will reach a broad and engaged audience. From our popular news broadcast to our exciting music and entertainment programming, QTV has something for everyone. QTV, the premier destination for advertising in the Gambia. Contact us today and let us help you reach your audience.
Welcome back. Following that commercial break, if you're just tuning in, be reminded you're watching QTV Nightly News coming to you from our studios on Caraba Avenue. With me, Ansmane Sonyase. Now, the National Human Rights Commission is commemorating the 5th year anniversary of its establishment in 2019 with the aim of boosting human rights standards in the Gambia. As Jennifer Sonko reports, the Commission also released its State of the Human Rights Report 2023.
The National Human Rights Commission was established by an Act of Parliament as a permanent transitional justice commission to nurture a culture of respect for human rights and freedoms guaranteed by the rule of law following 2 decades of authoritarian rule. Since then, there has been significant promotion and protection of the fundamental human rights and freedoms of Gambians through awareness raising, policy creation, and partnerships. The NHRC is an A-status human rights institution, meaning it is fully compliant with the Paris Principles to promote and protect. Emmanuel Daniel Juve, the NHRC chairman, outlined some of the Commission's achievements.
We have done a lot of work in the area of capacity building for our security forces. As you know, the TRRC reveals that a lot of the violations were done by the security forces. But that's not the only thing we did. We have worked very closely with civil society. I've mentioned the fact that we had established the Saudawda Kairaba Jawara Moot Court competition in collaboration with the University of the Gambia, where we hold competition now. It has gone actually Africa-wide. Universities, we are trying to instill a human rights culture within our law students. But I think another area that we have actually made a lot of impact is our individual complaints mechanism. Anybody can actually walk into the National Human Rights Commission if you feel that your human rights have been violated.
The NHRC is mandated to investigate and consider complaints of human rights violations in the Gambia, include violations by private persons and entities. The NHRC presented its yearly State of Human Rights report, providing a summary of the state of human rights in the Gambia. Here is Mansour Job, Director Legal and Investigation, NHRC.
We have looked at the right to life, and in our assessment we have registered situations in which murder cases were committed, and some of these cases are currently pending before the High Court. So some of the recommendations along this theme is for the to expedite the prosecution of these cases before the court, so that at least victims are given the justice that they deserve. With respect to the right to personal liberty, the Constitution guarantees people's right to personal liberty and not to be subjected to arbitrary arrest and detention. But during the reporting period, we have seen situations in which individuals were arrested by the police and detained beyond 72 hours. For example, we have the case of Alaji Bora Sissa, who was arrested and detained by the police beyond 72 hours, and he took the matter to court and he got judgment in his favor.
An Afrobarometer survey in March 2023 showed that the majority of Gambians say corruption has increased during the previous year, 2022, and that they believe the government is doing poorly in fighting it. Here is how corruption was highlighted in this report.
Because of the effect of corruption on the enjoyment of human rights. So we have seen during the reporting period in 2023 where a high government officer was convicted of corruption and sent to jail, and that also shows government position in the fight against corruption.
There has been significant progress in the creation of laws and policies such as the Anti-Corruption Act, the Disabilities Act, the passing of the Access to Information Bill, amongst others. Implementation of these, as with many enacted laws, remains one of the biggest challenges facing the country. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Basonko.
Now, the governor of the Central Bank of the Gambia, Boaz Saidi, revealed on Thursday that the Gambia's revenue has registered noticeable improvement in the first quarter of 2024 thanks to improvements in tax administration. He was speaking at a press briefing following a two-day monetary policy committee meeting. More in this report. The Central Bank Governor Boaz Saidi in his media briefing reveals, among other things, the current domestic and global economic conditions and trends. He disclosed that despite challenges, the country's current economic outlook shows noticeable signs of improvement, adding that the bank's latest business sentiment survey for the first quarter of 2024 also indicates improvements in business sentiments.
The central bank continues to hold comfortable levels of international reserves amounting to $479.8 million in April 2024. Which is sufficient to finance over 4.9 months of prospective imports of goods and services.
Furthermore, Governor Saidi reveals that the domestic market has registered total volumes of transactions of $600.9 million in the first quarter of the year, a slight decrease from the same period in 2023. The governor further stated that the foreign market also continues to function with little or no hitches, and private remittances, which remains the country's largest source of foreign currency supply, registered a 12.4% increment from last year with an inflow of $203.7 million in the first quarter of 2024.
The exchange rate of the dollar continued to be relatively stable. From December 2023 to March 2024, the dollar depreciated against the US dollar by 6.9%, the euro by 5.9%, the British pound by 7.5%, and the CFA franc by 5.1%.
The central bank governor also reports that as of March this year, inflation has decelerated. This, he says, can be attributed to a decrease in global commodity prices and domestic policy actions.
Concerning developments in the banking industry, the bank's performance remained robust, underpinned by healthy macro-prudential ratios. The asset base of the industry grew from 70.7% of GDP in March 2023 to 76.9% in March 2024.
While Governor Saidi acknowledged challenges and noticeable improvements in the period under review, he says the current economic outlook signals improvements that requires collective efforts for sustainable development. Ansman Esonyasi for KTV News. And now on to international news in a moment. The International Court of Justice rules that Israel must halt its military offensive in Rafah in southern Gaza. Jennifer Sonko again.
The ICJ is the top UN court and can make legally binding rulings in disputes between countries, but has little way of enforcing its orders. It acted in support of a South African application last week, which sought a number of measures against Israel, accusing of it stepping up what it says is a genocide. Israel has vehemently denied the allegations and signaled it would ignore any order to halt its operation. The International Court of Justice also ordered Israel to allow the Rafah border crossing with Egypt to be kept open for humanitarian aid at scale and demanded the release of all Israeli hostages still held by Hamas. Israeli cabinet ministers are meeting later to discuss the ruling, but government officials have previously said that no power on earth would stop Israel protecting its citizens and pursuing Hamas in Gaza. This case was submitted to ICJ in January by South Africa, accusing Israel of committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. The death toll from Israel's war on Gaza, which began in October, has surpassed 35,000, and most of the dead are women and children, according to Palestinian authorities. Israel has launched the assault after Hamas led an attack on southern Israel, killing over 1,100 people, mostly civilians, according to an Al Jazeera tally. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Musonko.
And I'm afraid this is where we draw the curtains on this bulletin. But before we take a leave of you, here's a recap from main headlines. President Adama Barrow has inaugurated a health center at Chisai Majau, named after Jim Fatma Job, a retired chief of Jokadu, for his 40-year service to the nation. A lifeless body was discovered early this morning, Friday, 24th May, on the Wellingara Highway. President Barrow, as chair of the OIC, has approved the Gambia's filing of a reply brief to the International Court of Justice in The Hague in its case against Myanmar for its alleged genocide against the Rohingya. And the World Bank Country Office in the Gambia held its annual dissemination forum on Friday on the state of the Gambia's economy. In international news, the International Court of Justice rules that Israel must halt its military offensive in Rafah in southern Gaza. Well, that's all we have for you in this bulletin. To join us tomorrow at 8 p.m. for another bulletin. Until then, thanks for watching.